Hello, everyone. Oh, I'm so glad to be back. Hello, replay viewers. I'm Sandy Peckinpah, and I'm so glad you're joining me on this Periscope tonight. I have been gone for a couple of days during the holidays, but I'm back, and I am so excited to share this Periscope with you called How to Love Yourself. And it's about the emerging writer in you, the blogger, the journal, all of those things that we have inside of us that are just waiting to get out. Jason, thank you for joining me. Nina, thank you for joining me, or Nina, hopefully one or the other. I appreciate you joining. Hello. Oh, thanks, and got hearts right away. So I'm going to flip this around and hello, everyone. I am Sandy Peckinpah, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. I'm so glad to be back. I've been gone for several days after doing something like 20-some Periscopes in a row. Hi, Sandy. The first time was right. Yay. Okay. So welcome. I appreciate you being here. And so this Periscope is going to be how to love yourself. And this, thank you. It's good to see you too, Nina. Nina. Yes, Nina. It's so good to see you too. I am a writer, and I'm also a coach. Yay, you're back, girlfriend. So glad to see you again. I'm a writer and a coach, and I like to encourage people to express themselves fully through the written word, but not just the written word, but also through whatever artistic or a creative sense that they have inside that is just waiting to get out. And so purple hearts, thank you. I appreciate all those hearts, and I'm so glad to be back. So this is how to love yourself. So here's what I want to tell you. Is that, yay, Kimberly, I'm so glad you're back. So this is what I want to share with you, is that as a coach, and I'm also a certified grief recovery counselor for people who have experienced life after loss, but I also help women who are entering the next act of their lives, and maybe they've experienced things like a divorce or a change in finances or an empty nest or something like that. Well, those are all the things that we experience at, later in life that we say, love, Hay House. Yes! As a matter of fact, I am so, okay, so that must be that you know me through that, because I was interviewed on Hay House Radio about my book, How to Survive the Worst That Can Happen, and had a wonderful experience with that. And so I love talking about healing, and I'm so grateful. Yay! So writing is a way to be in a loving relationship with yourself. And that is so, David, thank you for joining us. We're talking about writing and how it's a way to be in a loving relationship with yourself. Because when you write, you become an observer of the expression, whatever you've put on the page. And what I mean by that is your story is who you are. Your story is your legacy. And this broadcast isn't necessarily just for people who want to write, but it's for people who want to fully express themselves. And so by fully expressing yourself, that means that you get to live life to the fullest. You get to fall in love with yourself. And believe me, I've been through those times when I didn't think that I liked myself very much, or that I didn't have very much hope, and that life just seemed to tumble down. And those experiences in my life I can name briefly. I know many of you already know because you're my regulars, and I'm so glad you're here. But I thought that I had a fairy tale life, and this was just about the late 80s when I thought, I have everything I have ever wanted. I cannot believe how, thank you, Nina, I'm so grateful. And it is an amazing story but at the time, I just thought, I don't know, I just thought that this was how life was. I guess I didn't judge it or think about it. I guess I just thought that I was a good girl, and so nothing bad would ever happen to me. And I remember being at the Emmys And my husband was nominated for a series called Beauty and the Beast. And I remember thinking, I am the luckiest woman alive, that I have my beautiful husband who is so talented and creative, and we have a great marriage. I had 2 boys at home that were watching us on TV, waiting to catch a glimpse. I had another baby on the way. I was pregnant when I was at the Emmys. And little did I know that a few months later, I would give birth to a child with a birth defect. And at that point, I really was in such shock, because I think that I just didn't expect it to happen to me, because I thought I'd done everything right. Well, about 5 years after that, then I lost my child. And Hope, thank you for joining us. I'm Sandy Peckinpah, and I'm just going about my story just briefly because I want to talk mostly about you and how to love yourself through all the trials and tribulations that you've had. And I want to give you some of the secrets as to how I survived some of the worst things that happened in my life and some of the best things that happened in my life, and how it emerged. Oh, thank you. Those are beautiful. How it happened. Hope, thank you so much. So at the point that I lost my child, I thought that I would never have a happy life again. I thought that it was impossible. And the thing that got me back on track was the ability to sit down and write one sentence in a journal. And that sentence was, "My son died and my life will never be the same." And that one sentence was all I could write the day that he died. But I can tell you that that sentence had more power than I could ever imagine, because my life would never be the same. And not only that, I would survive that deep, tragic loss. And I would go on to realize that in losing my child, that it gave me a different look at life that was stronger, more loving, more kind, more compassionate. I had the ability to create something that gave my son's legacy to the world. And that was in writing, because I wrote How to Survive the Worst That Can Happen. And it's a parent's step-by-step guide for surviving the loss of a child. And then it also started me on my way to blogging and listening to other people's stories and speaking engagements and radio shows. All of those things came as a result of such a tragic loss that I thought I could never survive, but I did. And today's focus, I want to tell you that the most important thing you can do, if you're going through a good time, a bad time, whatever you're going through, is to get a journal and start writing in it. And I know some people, they think that a journal's boring, or, oh, is this just writing about my day-to-day stuff? No. I can tell you what it is, and I can show you my current journal. It's pages and pages of stuff that I hear from other people, inspirational lines from other people on Periscope. Kelly, thank you for joining us. I'm talking about how important it is to start writing down your thoughts, that your journal, when you start writing things in a journal, and what I just shared is that it's not about just writing your day-to-day stuff, because sometimes that's a little daunting and it feels a little boring because we've already lived it. But what it's doing is it's giving you an opportunity to observe life from a new vantage point, and that is, it's a thought. Cynthia says, as I shared the other day, sometimes it's doodles. Cynthia, I hope everybody follows Cynthia, because the great thing about Cynthia is she has the ability to share her deepest feelings in a blog. And I'm telling you, she is so enlightening to me, and her story is so inspirational to me. And we met on Twitter. And so I hope that you go and follow her and read her blogs, because it's powerful stuff. And you know what? We as women, we all go through those tough times. And men too, for the men that are joining us, we all go through those tough times. And it's so important that we recognize the power of the written word. So let me tell you what happens. You have a thought. Like my thought after my son died was, my son died and my life will never be the same. Then it comes out of your brain, onto the pen, through the pen, onto the written page, and suddenly you're an observer of that thought. And what happens when you observe that thought is that it starts to have a life of its own. And so my brain started questioning, how will my life be different? How will my life never be the same? How was my life before? What do I mean by my life will never be the same? You know, and then suddenly I started thinking of ways that I could improve my life, ways that other people had inspired me. And I started writing that in my journal. I started writing quotes that meant something. I started writing my feelings after I read C.S. Lewis's A Grief Observed. You know, that's the book that the, a movie was made from it. And can anybody remember that movie? It was with Anthony Hopkins. It was beautiful. And that book helped me so much. But all of those things, it's your support system. I love the Purple Hearts. That makes me feel validated that I'm saying something that might be important. And yes, A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis. And the Shadowlands. Shadowlands? I think that was the name of no, it was Shadowlands. And that was the story of the loss of his wife and the experience and the healing from it. And was it Deborah Winger in it also? Yes, Shadowlands. That was it. Okay, thank you. Anyway, that book had a profound impact on me, along with other books. And I started writing those things in my journal, and I started researching about journals. And I learned, and I want to just share this name so I don't forget it, Dr. James Pennebaker. Dr. James Pennebaker says that he's one of the pioneers in writing therapy through the University of Texas. And his work confirms that writing your deepest thoughts and feelings is a perfect tool for healing and reclaiming a quality of life after loss or after any grave experience or tumultuous experience. You know, a lot of people get unsettled by sudden success too. So anything that tosses you into a new way of life, it's beneficial to start writing about it and journaling it. So let me tell you what a journal does. It gives you a safe place. And here are the safe places that I listed for you today. It gives you a safe place to tell the truth about what you're feeling. And let me tell you, when I was going through the loss of my child in those early months, I told the truth. I was so angry. Yes, Hope, it's great for trauma. Thank you for sharing that. Because any kind of trauma, illness, do you know there are over 40 kinds of loss that people experience? And people don't give credit to the fact that it is loss. In fact, one of the things that I learned when I was going through my certification as a grief recovery specialist was that loss can take a form of loss in even a child moving before the age of 15. From one home to another. That's a form of loss. A loss of, the everyday friends that they grew up with and the comfort of their home. That's a form of loss that can sometimes traumatize children. And so if you recognize that, you have an opportunity to sort of intervene in that process and really help them transition into their new place. Loss can be the loss of a pet. Loss can be... in the downturn of the economy, we saw so many people lose their homes. And I firsthand witnessed so many people lose their homes, and it was such a difficult transition for them to make. And I don't think everybody understood how grave that was, how upsetting and how traumatizing it was for people to say, I had to give up. I couldn't do it anymore. And suddenly, they went from being a homeowner to a renter, and they had lost their life savings that they had put into this home. And, I helped transition many people through that time period because what we did was we helped them understand the joys of, yes, loss of security, the joys of being able to rent and not have to worry about, the everyday details of running a home. Oh, wow, I'm sorry, Kimberly. I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, and you probably went through a transition, didn't you? I mean, I think you probably had to do a lot of searching and adjustment in that time. And so, again, getting back to the journal is a safe place to tell your thoughts and your feelings. And I'm telling you, I expressed a lot of anger in my journal, and it felt so good to put it on paper because it left my body. I was able to write it down. I was angry, and it left my body. Another thing is that you get to reflect on the past and the present. And so, yes, it helped to move to a new city. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I bet it would. Just to sort of feel like you got a fresh start. And as a renter, I like to think I have a staff. I've even got my friends calling my apartment the Palace. How great, Cynthia. I love it. Exactly. Yes, exactly. Oh, I love it. So, again, the journal was a perfect place for Kimberly and Cynthia to start writing their feelings about their position, what they were doing in life, and any moves that they had to make. Reflect on the past and present. And it's important to reflect on what the past gives you in perspective on the present. Huge, huge. It gives you an opportunity to notice emotions and reactions, because I remember writing things down and then I'd read it afterwards and think, wow, I didn't know I felt that way until I wrote it down. So it gives you the possibility of looking at something that was inside of you, but it was balled up inside of you and holding you back until you wrote it on the page. And then you had an opportunity to notice it and to react to it. The next thing is you can ask outrageous questions. Like I asked, why me? Why did I lose my child? Well, why not me? Other people have. It happens. My child's loss was random. My child woke up with a fever and was dead the next morning of bacterial meningitis. The doctor had diagnosed it as the flu, and I believed him, but he misdiagnosed it. It was bacterial meningitis, and it was the most aggressive form. And we never could have anticipated when I kissed him goodnight that I would find him in the morning, not alive. And it did change my life forever. It was heartbreaking. And I have learned so much, and one of the things that I've learned is the power of people like you, Nina. Thank you. Because I never realized that people could surround me with so much love and so much support. And I allowed people in when before, thank you, Kimberly, before I thought I had it all together. And yes, my strength came as a result of my experiences and people like you lifting me up when I thought I couldn't lift myself up. And I learned how to ask for help for the first time in my life, because I was one of these people that thought I could do it all, like I was Wonder Woman or something. I thought I had life all figured out, and I didn't. And I learned that in the hardest way possible through loss and the resilience that I had to activate in myself to figure it all out. And it's people that helped me. And I surrounded myself with the right people, my family, my friends, books, inspirational music, all kinds of things like that lifted me up. And I am so grateful. And thank you for the hearts, because I know that what you're saying to me is that I'm able to give you something. And so I thank you for that. The next thing that a journal can do, that you can do in a journal, is you can be angry, you can be sad, you can be frustrated, you can be unhappy. And then you can put it on the page, and you can get up and go downstairs and take care of your child with a happy face. And I had to do that. It's amazing how we manage to survive challenges and rise above. Nina, you are so right, because I don't think most people trust the resilience inside of them until they have to activate it. And that's what I talk about in my book, is that resilience is activated. Recovery from grief has to be active, not passive. You don't just sit back and grieve for a year. You take active steps toward understanding what grief is doing to you and what it's meant to be inside of you. And I remember someone saying that grief is a badge of honor, because you get to say, oh, Kimberly, I want to read this. Stories, watching fictional characters live through trauma helps. Yes, 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 yes. Books like, even fiction books help. Cynthia, no idea the stuff you're made of until you are thrown into it. Yes. And then, wow, yes. Yes, yes, because you do have it inside of you. You do have the power to bounce back. And I'm going to talk about, in one of my periscopes, and maybe it'll be tomorrow, about the traits of resilient people. So what is it that makes someone retreat from loss? Beauty and the Beast helps so many. Thank you. I think so too. Beauty and the Beast was one of my most favorite series that my husband wrote. And it was so enlightening to experience that series just before my own daughter was born with a facial defect. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. Absolutely a great lesson from The Wizard of Oz. Absolutely one of my all-time favorite movies. I have learned so much from that movie and continue to watch it over and over again. And you know what? I love that it's Oprah Winfrey's favorite movie too. She said that it taught her so much. There's no place like home, and there's no place like inside of you. And that's what I'm saying. Bring what's inside of you out and put it on the written page, and you have everything. All the tools you need to know what you've survived and how you're going to move forward. The other thing that you can do with a journal is you can reveal your weaknesses, because that's powerful stuff when you recognize your own weaknesses. And I had to recognize that, I had never asked people for help. And suddenly I was having to ask people for help. But it wasn't something to be embarrassed of. It was something that I realized I was giving a great gift to the people who were helping me. By letting them help me, it gave them a feeling that they were helping me recover from the loss of my child. And the bonds that I formed during that time are lifelong bonds that I will never forget. And many of you know my best friend is Melissa Gilbert from Little House on the Prairie. We walked through the loss of my child, and our relationship became stronger, better, and unbreakable. And to this day, it's unbreakable. And she will tell you, I'm her best friend and she's my best friend, and nothing can tear that apart. And it feels so good to know that I have that kind of support. And I'm so grateful to her too, because she wrote the foreword to my book from her perspective of walking through that loss. And that was a tough time, walking through that loss with me. The other thing that you can do, yes, she is beautiful. She's my soul sister. I love her so much. In fact, guess what she did at Thanksgiving? I thought that she lives in Michigan now, and she had flown out to LA, and I didn't think that I would get to see her because I had 27 people coming for Thanksgiving. 4:00 in the afternoon on Thanksgiving, there's a knock on the door, and there's Melissa at my front door with her husband, Tim Busfield, and they are standing there, surprise! And so I got to be with my best friend on Thanksgiving, and I am most thankful for her. So anyway, that was such a cool thing to happen. So I'm expressing gratitude, and that's another place. Find a place in your journal to express gratitude, and find a place in your journal to express serenity, because when you're feeling those moments of serenity, you are so grateful for them when you go through such a difficult time. And I remember thinking, I had 5 minutes in my brain when I didn't hurt, and that felt so good. And it felt so peaceful. And you start to treasure those times, and those times get longer and longer. And suddenly it's been a day since you haven't felt the pain. And then suddenly it's been 2 days and 3 days. And then maybe it'll take a step backward and you'll say, oh, I'm feeling this pain today. But then the recovery comes a little bit faster. And I'm telling you that this is how recovery is. Recovery from loss is never linear. It's just, sometimes it gives you a huge amount of peace, and then it can take you back. But what taking you back reminds you of is how intense you felt the love for that child or whomever you've lost. And grief gives you that perspective on how deeply you love. And guess what? I want to give you a little secret before I go today, because what I discovered in losing my son is that my love for him did not stop at the level that it was when he died at 16. This makes me cry. As the years go by, I love him more and more, as though he is with me. He is with me at all times. As though he is with me in the flesh, I am loving him more and more and more. And part of that is in seeing the impact that his loss has had on my ability to share recovery with others. Thank you. Yeah, it's okay to cry. And I've done lots of crying over the years, and I encourage all of my coaching clients to cry freely, because someday you're going to miss those tears. Someday you will. And it's nice because I can get back in touch with them when I want to. So I hope that this Periscope has helped you in some way to recognize the power of your journal and your written word. And you're going to be able to look back on what you wrote and realize how far you've come. And so I'm excited. I bought this new journal at the store the other day. I love that old-fashioned typewriter. I had one of those. And yes, it is so true, Nina. And so, I wrote a blog on journaling. And so here is the bit.ly link for it. bit.ly /journal healing. And thank you. And I think those purple hearts are coming from you. And the pink hearts, I think, are coming from, is that you, Cynthia? Yay, yes, bit.ly journal healing. And I wrote this article about the benefits of journaling. And so I hope you have an opportunity to read it. And I also want to share that I am at Sandy Peckinpah on Twitter and on Periscope. So I would love for you to follow me. And I have lots of ideas coming up for more Periscopes. I am so grateful. My wish for you is that today you'll write one sentence in your journal that you'll get to reflect on tomorrow and realize that it was the catalyst for something happening inside of you that's going to be greater than you can ever imagine at this moment. So thank you for joining me. I am so grateful to have this opportunity. And I'll see you tomorrow, probably about the same time. Thank you. Bye-bye.